Today I'm going to tell you about a guy who saved for 500 years, and when he woke up, it turned out that he is the smartest person on Earth. In the 21st century, human evolution reached its peak. Since then, the development process began to move in the opposite direction. Intelligent people in the world of the future are on the verge of extinction. For example, Trevor and Carol, they are accused about 140, and they have no children, as they consider this step responsible. And this is Clem and Trish, with IQ below 90, and they already have 5 children. 5 years later, Trevor and Carol still have no children, while Clem and Trish have more children than before. Dumb people multiply like rabbits, while smart people die out for generations. In 2005, Joe Bowers chose for an unusual experiment that involves deep freezing. This is how the US government wants to keep the best people alive until the country needs them. Bowers is not the best person, but he is an excellent candidate for the role of test subject. Because if the experiment fails, no one will look for the guy. But there are problems with finding a woman for the experiment, so the military chose a girl named Rita, who is the heiress of the oldest profession. The price for participation in the experiment is the removal of all past charges against Rita, so her pimp nicknamed Upgrade agrees to let the girl go. The subject will be frozen for a year, and if the experiment is successful, people can be placed in cryogenic capsule for centuries. But suddenly Collins and Upgrade are arrested, so people who knew anything about Bowers and Rita ended up in prison, while the rest simply forgot about the project. 500 years later, humanity's intelligence has been reduced to the level of an ape. The main problem of the population of the future is mountains of garbage. An avalanche of garbage brings the capsule to the apartment of a guy who watches typical future TV show. Joe appears from the capsule, and the guy gets up from the chair and throws Bowers out the window. In a hospital, Bowers meets the doctor. He finds a magazine with the release date 2505. Joe is given a check for visiting the doctor, which bears the same date as the magazine. At this point, he realizes what's happening. Not finding barcode on Joe's wrist, a doctor presses the panic button, forcing Bowers to flee the hospital. As Joe wanders through the city, he realizes that the world has become impossibly dumb. The level of intelligence of all people can be judged by a movie called Us. After leaving the cinema, Joe notices a girl kicking a vending machine who has not given her the food he bought. When the girl leaves, Bowers goes to the vending machine. The cops notice that Joe doesn't have a barcode and quickly arrest him and put him in a car. At the court, Bowers is provided with a lawyer, who is the guy who threw Joe out of his apartment. Joe is guilty of robbing the hospital, because he ran away without paying the doctor, and he is also guilty of not having a barcode. He is taken to a machine that gives the guy a tattoo. After that, Joe is sent to take an aptitude test to determine his IQ. This to determine how smart the guy is, and to give him a proper job in prison. After solving problems that even a chimpanzee can solve, Joe is taken to prison. Through the window, Bowers notices a prison yard, where a fat man is sitting on a prisoner. And noticing Joe, the fat man points his finger at him, warning him that he will be next. Relying on the stupidity of local guards, Joe approaches one of them, explaining that he must be released from prison today. The guard calls him an idiot and shows him what line he has to get out of prison. Joe returns to his lawyer's apartment, threatening to be disbarred, and in prison, Bowers forces him to help. Joe discovers that there is a time machine in this world, but it's very expensive and breaks down all the time, because it was invented a long time ago by some smart guy. Joe promised Fred that when he returns to 2005, he will open an account in the name of lawyer, and after 500 years, there will be billions of dollars in his account. Fred is very fond of money and agrees to help, but before that, they must find Rita. After finding the girl, Joe picks her up, and together they hide from the cops. On the way, cameras pick up a barcode on Joe's hand, so the car's engine shuts down. Guys manage to get out of the car in time. Joe is later arrested in another town. This time Bowers is being taken to the White House instead of jail, because Joe was tested to be the smartest person on Earth, so he immediately becomes Minister of Internal Affairs. At the speech, the President of the United States points to Joe and tells his voters that this guy is the smartest guy on the planet. He will help mankind solve crop problems. The President also promises that Bowers will solve dust storms in just 1 week, as well as boosting the economy. Bowers demands to see Fred and ask him where the time machine is, but because of the lawyer's stupidity, he only knows that the time machine is near the museum. Joe demands to find Rita as she is an important addition to him, after which he goes with a crowd of ministers to check why the wheat is not growing. In the field, Rita and Joe discover that the people of the future are irrigating their wheat crop with an energy drink instead of water. In this world, water is not used because the population are associated with water in a toilet bowl. A few days later, Bowers is arrested again, but because he started to use water instead of energy drink. Because of this, the drink company's shares have dropped to zero. Joe is sentenced to rehab 9. Rita goes to the window and notices that the first sprout is breaking through the ground, which means that Bowers was right. When she arrives at the stadium, she tells the president about the wheat sprouts, but he doesn't believe her because he hasn't seen anything. The girl bribes the cameraman and asks Fred to go with him to the field and film the crops, while she sneaks to the control console. Meanwhile, Joe cleverly deals with both monster trucks, but the driver of one of them, with a flamethrower, starts chasing Bowers. Fred arrives at the field to shoot a wheat crop, and Rita displays the image from the camera to the main screen above the arena. After seeing the wheat sprouts, the President of the United States gives Joe his pardon. The President appoints Bowers as Vice President, but Joe refuses because he has to go back. After one of the ministers suggests watering the nuclear reactor to make it work like wheat, Joe decides to stay. In the end, it turns out the time machine is just an attraction. After a while, Joe is elected President of the United States, and Rita becomes First Lady. This couple gives birth to 3 smart children, while Fred, who became Vice President, has 30 of the dumbest children. Thanks for watching, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell.